All right, now speaking of free agents, Russell Wilson will be a free agent as of next week, but the Broncos are allowing him to meet with teams. He's certainly taking advantage of that. He's met with the Steelers, and we find out that he did meet with the New York Giants. He's going on to meet with the Las Vegas Raiders as well. What this tells me, now, no matter how this plays out, guys, I wonder if you agree with me. Rich Eisen's report was spot on. Daniel Jones is done. He's done. Now, it could be done before this year. It could be done definitely at the end of the season. But the fact that they're sniffing around Russell Wilson tells me that Daniel Jones is done. They have no plan for him in the future. So if they want Russell Wilson to come in and play this year, that is to get a quarterback in this year's draft to play behind Russell Wilson. And there's one thing that we haven't mentioned, guys. The Giants are out from under the obligation to Daniel Jones at the end of this year, but only if he's healthy. If he gets hurt, they're liable for more money. So part of year 3 and 4 kick in if, God forbid, he suffers another neck injury. So if you play Daniel Jones, you are potentially on the hook for money that right now you're not on the hook for if he is indeed done after the 24-25 season. I think the Giants would love to get Russell Wilson because he's cheaper than any backup you're going to get, and he could start because all you've got to pay him is $1.2 million, the minimum wage.
Yeah, because now you're just betting, right? You're gambling. All right, let's say he plays. What are the chances he plays at a level where I will accept the final 2 years of the contract? And you put an odds on it. I don't know, what would the odds be? 30%? 40%? That he impresses you in 2024 where you're not going to mind paying him $80 million over the next 2 years? And then what's the chances that if he plays while you're auditioning him for those final 2 years, he ends up getting hurt and now you're stuck? Percentages are probably higher, right? No offense to Daniel Jones, but you look at the history, I think there's a better chance he gets hurt in 2024 that impresses to where I want to keep him for 2 more years. So the smart thing, I guess, to do under those circumstances is you eat the $40 million, have him be your backup, and bring somebody in to be your starting quarterback. And then you could be free of him at the end of the year.
It makes a lot of sense because he could play the role of Kurt Warner with Eli Manning. And it buys Brian Dable and Joe Shane some time because let's say you play him the entire year. You have a chance to win. You have not to win a Super Bowl. You have a chance to win 9 games. He's a good quarterback. He might be a pain in the rear, but he is a good quarterback.
But I wasn't around on the radio here for the Kurt Warner-Eli relationship. Did Kurt play a mentor role also to Eli?
I don't think it wasn't like your typical mentor. It's a good question, Peter, because Kurt Warner didn't think he was done, and he was right because he goes on to go to a Super Bowl with the Cardinals after that. But just being in the same room as Kurt Warner, a veteran quarterback who went to a Super Bowl with the Rams, that served as somewhat of a mentor to Eli. I don't think he was holding his hand, but if you're around greatness, it's going to rub off.
What I'm asking is, I asked the question because do we know that Russell Wilson, as good as he was at his best, based on the way teams are treating him now, is he a guy you even want in the room with your future quarterback?
I thought about that. I thought you'd ask that. Well, how about the fact that Geno Smith learned something from him? Sitting there for 2 years.
Yeah, you can't.
It certainly didn't hurt him.
Was that where he learned it, though, or was it just playing on the Seahawks?
He certainly didn't learn it with the Jets.
He did not.
So he sat behind Russell Wilson. He was terrible with the Jets. He went to Seattle, sat behind Russell Wilson a couple of years. When he finally got his chance, he was a good quarterback.
It could have just been, watching Eli, watching Wilson. True. I mean, listen, do I think you have to be a good mentor? Just play, and then I can watch you play.
Right.
The problem is he too much of a nozzle in the room to kind of ruin it? But you talk about eating $40 million for a backup quarterback. You could do that if you've got your starting quarterback on the league minimum.
Exactly. Exactly. All of a sudden, that's your quarterback. It doesn't matter how you split the money.
You're allotting X amount of money for my quarterback room. It just so happens that my backup's making the most. Now, if I got to go out.
And most quarterbacks now, Don, great quarterbacks are making 50. Right. So the Giants would actually be under the number.
But if I go out and get Kirk Cousins, say, and I got to pay him, $40, $50, now you got $90 million relegated to your quarterback position. Now you're dead. That's not going to happen. That's why it would only be attractive. It actually, even if he ends up being a nozzle at the end of the day, I still think it's worth it because you still will get better at least feel better about your quarterback position this year than the potential of Daniel Jones getting hurt again, and then you're stuck.
And you could spin it this way, guys. They're going to battle it out. Now, the way I feel about Daniel Jones, no offense, if you let Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones battle it out, Russell Wilson's going to win that job. He's just a better quarterback. So then you use one of your picks at one point to pick a quarterback and let that young man, whether it be J.J. McCarthy, whether it be Knicks, or whether it be whoever they decide, whoever falls to them, they get in the second round, they sit and watch. They sit and watch. It's a perfect situation. It's what Jordan Love did behind Aaron Rodgers. It's what Patrick Mahomes did behind Alex Smith, because I don't think any of the quarterbacks other than Caleb Williams and the top three, I think everybody else is going to have to learn.
Well,
I don't think Caleb Williams has to sit behind somebody. You throw him into the fire and let him play.
Yeah, some guy, but you saw how much it would have valued Zach Wilson if he got to watch for a year instead of getting thrown to the wolves. Some guys, it makes sense. Some guys, it doesn't make sense. And now but I don't think you can hurt him. Let's say there's a quarterback that would actually play pretty well in his first year. Do we think it would hurt him if he watched for 1 year just to see what it's like in the NFL and then finally get the chance and obviously work for Mahomes? Play that last game of his rookie year, and now he's one of the great quarterbacks of all time. So it makes sense to kick the tires. Now he's also going to go to Vegas. He's talking with Pittsburgh. But, boy, this would be interesting if the Giants can make it happen.
I'll just say this. You better be confident in your head coach and confident in the culture you have on the team, because the Russell Wilson of the last couple of years feels like he could be the kind of dude that is not necessarily great for a locker room. So
maybe for a coach, but you think for a locker room?
I don't know. I mean, no one seems to want this guy who's clearly talented. Every story you hear from players is not great. Denver started off last year in complete shambles. Now, they ended up having a half-decent year. Again, this is why I said all the more reason I'd be curious to talk to a reporter in Denver on what the feeling was like from him throughout the season. Because I just think that's important. When you're building a team, culture is an important piece of it. And we really don't know what he affected that room like last year.
But you can kind of guess, right, where he had his own office there.
No, not he did with
Denver.
But not with Sean Payton.
Right, but that kind of laid
with Hackett. That
kind of laid the foundation for how maybe his teammates felt about him, and then it causes friction when he comes in there and then takes it away. Now he's embarrassed, right? Now he's going to be playing for league minimum, trying to build up his cred. So I would think he'd be on his best behavior.